Okay.
I don't think Robin is going to be participating. But we should be okay as it is. Um, so I'll call the meeting to order and do a roll. Mish,
At present.
Kevin,
Present.
Marty,
Present.
Gavin,
Present.
and I'm present. So that gives us five, which is quorum. Terrific. So we really have one primary piece of business today, which is the MBTA Communities Act bylaw. I'm gonna we are way behind on minutes. Several weeks ago, Simone sent out the June 4th minutes to everyone. I suspect you don't remember them, but I didn't get any comments back about them, so I'm hopeful that that means nobody had ma any major corrections or concerns about them. If people would like me to redistribute them, I'm happy to send them around again today, and then we can vote on them next time we meet. Or if you feel comfortable, we could vote now.
I feel comfortable.
You feel comfortable, great. Uh, does everyone else feel comfortable?
Sure.
Great. Nina is just about to join us, so let's wait for her. Great. So Nina, we are going to vote on the June 4th minutes. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
Yeah, I make that motion to accept the minutes.
And a second.
Second.
Thanks, Marty. Mish,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
and Gavin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So terrific. We're a little behind on this, so I'm going to try and catch up at our next meeting and do several. I'll have them redistributed before we meet. So I just wanted to briefly mention that we are the working groups are actually doing something. We have a Zoom of the guidance letter group tomorrow morning, and we have a meeting with Chris at the townhouse of the Blue Book Review group. Just actually mentioned to everyone that they have hired a communications person, which is really great news. It clearly is not something Chris has a lot of time for, but there was a part-time employee in the Board of Health office who people thought was spectacular. His undergraduate degree was in communications, and they have, my wife would say, stolen her from the Board of Health to promote her to the position in under the Board of Selectmen. So she's going to work with Chris on communication. So hopefully she'll start getting involved with the Blue Book revision group pretty quickly. I think she's going to work for the Board of Health for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then should be available to us.
Woody, I'm sorry, but was there a meeting invite for tomorrow morning?
Yeah, but I can resend it.
Okay.
I sent an email with the link, but I will.
All right. I'm sorry. I was just looking for
I didn't send an actual invite. I just sent the Zoom link.
gotcha. Okay.
I'll resend it either tonight or tomorrow morning early.
I'm sorry, what time is it for tomorrow?
10.
Okay. I think I should be able to make that. All right.
All right. So our major piece of business is the MBTA Communities Act.
Before you go on, Woody, I'm
Yeah.
looking at your email. I'm pretty sure it's 10:30.
10:30. Sorry, you're right, Marty. I just checked myself, and so 10:30, Kevin.
10:30 tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. I know I saw the emails going back and forth about possible times. I didn't realize it was locked down. That's fine.
Yeah. All right, great. Okay, so we are responsible or as this is a town meeting, although it's a special town meeting, to make a recommendation about to the members of town meeting about voting on the proposed bylaw. Most of you have participated in at least some of the informational sessions. Some of you were at the meeting Monday night. I'm happy to have some discussion first of the bylaw itself and what people think about it, or want to comment on really anything that you want to say pertinent to the proposed bylaw change.
I didn't have a chance to attend the Monday evening meeting. Was there any controversy or any major like disagreement with what the town is proposing?
I would say there was no controversy. There were a few questions that were asked, some from people on different boards, some from attendees, resident attendees. None of them seriously suggested that people had major opposition to the bylaw, I'd say. But Marty, you were there, and Mish, you were there. Nina was there, I think.
Mhm.
So, any other comments about the discussion?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. Go ahead.
Go ahead, buddy.
Pardon me.
Go ahead.
No, no.
No, I just had a question. During the meeting, there was a reference to attorneys for county court. And I didn't understand. I mean, is there litigation or is this I just didn't know what the nature of that was. And there wasn't really ever, I may have missed it, but I never heard a reference to what the actual people, the residents of the proposed overlay district, whether there was any opposition there. They weren't at the meeting, but I didn't know if there had been any opposition.
Maybe one of our select board liaisons could comment on that, because I'm not aware of anything.
You're on mute.
Either you don't look like you're muted, but we can't hear you.
It may be a microphone issue.
I would say in the PowerPoint, I know there's an upcoming meeting specifically for those residents, I think.
It was just when they mentioned the attorney, I was wondering what the nature of that was.
So I believe the only references to the attorney were Nina Green, our town council.
Not me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm looking right at you and saying.
Understood. Understood.
Sorry about that. But there's no lawyer involved specifically in county court, nor is there a lawsuit that's pending.
Okay, they did mention an attorney, but maybe for Tisdale it was a specific, but I didn't, it was sort of just in passing and it wasn't mentioned any further, so I didn't know.
Well, there was a mention of what Milton has spent on attorney fees fighting the state.
For
and
sure,
that is
yeah.
upwards of $1 million. So
Right. No, I'm just meant specifically, did we know of any opposition from the residents of that neighborhood?
there's a lot of questions because some of them are immediately assuming, oh, you're making us the new district. What's going to happen to our homes, and understandable concerns for those not informed. And so that's why they are having that resident meeting to answer any and all questions. And again, the way this has been developed, it's much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, for that property to get developed under this overlay district, a developer would have to buy each and every unit in county court, then knock them all down, then build under this new bylaw, which must comply with all of Dover's bylaw, just higher density. So setbacks have to be there. They're going to have to solve water. They're going to have to solve sewer. In the best analogy I can give is what Foxborough did. Foxborough put their overlay district on Patriot Place and the stadium. And I just really don't see the Crafts knocking that down anytime soon to build affordable housing. But I don't, did that help me?
No, because I'm not talking about the merits of the actual proposal. I was asking about whether there was residents that were opposed to it. I understand the proposal, and we've been to the planning board meetings endlessly. I just was wondering if there was and what the reference to the attorney was specifically. Yeah.
I'm not aware of one. I'll shut up
Okay.
now and let Cam go.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one either, if you can hear me.
Yeah. Yeah. Kim.
Yep.
Can I ask one clarifying question that I've always wondered? Is county court individually owned, so each of those units is independent, or is it somehow rented out? So it's a larger owner owns multiple or all of that entire development,
I believe they're condominiums.
Yeah, individually owned.
individually owned condos. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, either about the discussion or about the bylaw? It does feel as though the issue at the town meeting is going to be one of whether or not a quorum is achieved rather than whether or not there's support for primarily support for the bylaw, but at the same time feels as though we should go through our usual process and make a recommendation.
I guess from my observation on Monday at that meeting, it was pretty clear to me that there's been a significant amount of work done by professionals, both the planning board and the town council. And I think have come up with a recommendation that is probably the least onerous of all alternatives. And it's not something we can just pass and say, we're not interested, we don't do it, because you just circulated tonight, Woody, something from Michael Blanchard that sort of gave a whole laundry list of the potential negatives to not doing this. And as Dave just described, this really doesn't amount to a lot of anything, because from a practical standpoint, it would take significant efforts and investments to actually end up getting whatever benefits might come from this 40A. And I also, given all of the emphasis on Monday night, I think many people, when they hear 40A, they're not really distinguishing between 40A and 40B. They think this is going to be one big affordable development that allows you to essentially trump any kind of regulations locally and do whatever the hell you want. And this is not the way 40A is designed. So for all those reasons, I think it makes a lot of sense for us to recommend supporting the town
I-
going forward in this
If I
direction.
make a comment as well, the thing that I think we've tended to underplay a little bit in the discussion is the fact that this is the law. We don't really have any choice. We will have to implement a multifamily zoning area in the town. We can either do it with a fight and significant costs, or we can just do it in a straightforward fashion and do it in a way that has minimal impact on the town. And I think this proposal really hits the mark on that. But sorry to interrupt, but I just felt that we really do need to remember this is the law. It's not, we're not voting on whether we agree with what the state is requiring us to do. We're just conforming with what the state is requiring us to do.
Can you remind me, has this been presented to the state in some way as a preliminary proposal, or?
The
And
state has reviewed the wording of the bylaw
And the location of the county.
and the location.
In the EOHLC or whatever those initials are, the state agency in charge of the whole program for the state has approved county court as a site. And it is being also put in front of the Attorney General's office, who has the final sign off to make sure that by the time we get to town meeting, it has been pre-blessed. I'm sorry, I can't think of a better word.
And they didn't question the fact that everything would need to be knocked down, and the likelihood of that would be,
apparently they reviewed the site and nevertheless approved it.
Okay.
And a bunch of towns are doing that as well. Not, I mean, Foxborough, as Dave mentioned, and other towns are also. I mean, when in the beginning of this process, the planning board was considering sites that would have been more buildable, but in the winnowing, they've arrived at this one, which is less likely to be built. It seems to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit personally that I find it somewhat objectionable that we are complying with the letter but not the spirit of the law, just as Foxborough is.
Right. It's like a wink, wink. Yeah, I just wondered if the state didn't see through that or if they.
I think the state saw through it, but has not chosen to challenge us.
Okay.
Because as I understand it, under the law as it's currently written, this would pass muster. So, despite that, what I suspect will happen though is that given the fact this was a relatively weak law to begin with in terms of the impact on housing, and the issue of inadequate housing stock particularly in eastern Massachusetts is going to just get worse. And the state is going to be forced into some other action over time. So I think Dover is probably clear with the state in terms of almost certainly with the choice of the overlay district and kind of how things have been written. But I am not going to be shocked if in several years the state passes another law that's more strict.
Yeah.
But to Cam's point, it has to be done. I mean, it has to.
Yes.
We have to do it. There's so much money at stake, and it's a lot. And it has to we have to. People just need to understand. I hope the education part of this for citizens is effective. That people understand it.
Yeah, the town has to pick a site, and this site seems to make the most sense.
Well, it's also voted on, but in the town survey as well as both meetings.
Yeah,
So we chose this site as the town.
yeah. It is true, though. I wonder when all's said and done, like what percentage of towns will have submitted a parcel that will never, could never or would never be developed.
Yeah. It would be
I think it's also very different when you're looking at Natick versus a Dover.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean-
We're not a great public transportation town.
I think a number of Dover residents use the commuter rail from Needham.
I took it for 25 years.
Yeah, I took it for about 15 years. So I think, and there definitely are other Dover residents who use it. We're not, we are MBTA adjacent, if you will. So,
Yeah.
But I do think the MBTA has an impact on Dover and on traffic flows through the town.
Definitely, yeah.
Mm.
And this
So-
is really more about housing than public transportation, right?
It is absolutely. I think the choice of the MBTA was a convenient lever for the legislature rather than the goal. And it's actually a technique that's been used in the California law that the MBTA Communities Act was modeled on, did the same thing.
Right, and their housing affordability is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's
But they have
the only
had-
state that's worse than ours, I think.
It was a more strict law, however, and it has had a bigger impact on housing stock, I think, than in the Massachusetts laws like they have. So we have to decide on wording. And can you all see this? This is the wording being suggested by the planning board, which is being suggested to all it's the generic terminology that the planning board is suggesting for all of the boards. This would be the most simple kind of straightforward version. I decided that I would at least put down a potential alternative that is more analogous to the way we treat articles in the Blue Book. I don't feel that this is institutional loyalty, if you will, but I don't feel the Warrant Committee has the same stature as the Zoning Board of Appeals in terms of making a recommendation about bylaw consideration at town meeting. It's our job uniquely at town meeting to recommend to the town whether or not articles should be approved. So our typical approach to this has been to summarize the article and explain our rationale, and then record our vote. So I'll give you a minute to look at this. The easy default is just to use the wording of the planning board.
Woody, is it possible to expand your screen because we can only see part of it? At least I can.
I think so.
Reduce the size of it a little bit.
Or just scroll down, because we can see the first paragraph, we just can't see the second.
Okay. Everybody get a chance to look at it. So as I said, the easy default is simply to use the wording of the planning board. And I have no ego involved in this. I'm happy to do that.
Well, Woody, it looks like you could do both, couldn't you? You use the standard recommendation, support it. What you've provided here, I think, is the rationale for that support, right?
Right. That's what we typically do in the Blue Book. We don't give an elaborate justification for what we do, but we summarize kind of what goes into things. If there's any controversy about the article.
Okay, if I may comment,
Yeah.
A document is being published that is being called an executive summary, that is an alternative to the classic Blue Book, and I think this would be a great entry into that summary for the Warrant Committee. I would only have one other comment, Woody. Again, we don't point out that non-compliance is going to ultimately be futile, because the state does require us to have a multifamily zone. So I think it might be worth stating that somewhere, but that's completely up to you guys.
Well, it puts us out of compliance. Is that what you mean, Cam?
Yes, and we will be required to move into compliance.
Right.
So we don't really have any, it's a futile effort in the end.
How about putting in here? It's not not great.
You could start with it and say passage of this article. It could be the first sentence. It doesn't really go.
Yeah.
Perhaps just before the precise financial consequences, might be to say something like, ultimately, opposing this bylaw will be futile, and the precise financial consequences of non-compliance cannot be definitively calculated.
Your resistance is futile. I guess so. My vote here, or my take, is that if there is an outlet, as Cam or mentions, where there is a more of a backstory or an executive summary, where would we have the ability to collaborate on the wording of that document, Cam?
In fact, my understanding of it is, in principle, it is a warrant committee document.
Oh, okay.
Although we've not been offered the opportunity to review it.
Well, nothing has yet been created. I think the idea is to create this as quickly as possible. But
Yeah.
you
What
might
Carol
have.
told me was that they needed our statement of approval by the end of this week because they had to send something to the printer,
Yeah.
suggesting that most of it's been written, or is being written now.
It's being written
Do you
now.
have a clarifying point there?
But I guess what I feel this invites either confusion, leading with multifamily housing in Dover is going to get people's hair up in a bunch. Like in other words, this is kind of a bunch of to do about nothing. We're suggesting a parcel that will probably never financially ever make sense for a developer to knock down and build multifamily housing. So I guess I would just stick with that kind of vanilla sentence that doesn't really allow for any rat holes. But that's, I mean, I'll go either way. But I mean, if there is a place to expound upon why, then that would be great. But this to me is just a lot.
Well, I think the executive summary is intended to be significantly more than this. And
So,
to
yeah.
address many of the questions that were considered or elaborated on at the planning board meeting on Monday. It's the phrase multifamily housing is integral to the bylaw and integral to the MBTA Communities Act. That is exactly what the MBTA Communities Act is requiring.
Well,
The fact that we don't think that's going to happen in Dover.
then then you could take your last sentence and make it the second sentence, right? So that to Kevin's point, so that you could say passage of this article will establish the district as permitted of right. And then you could put Cam's point in, non-compliance with this is futile and could be costly. Dover will be in compliance simply by creating the district. No, like put that up earlier before you, I mean, I don't know. That's just in that way. I just, that last sentence seems to address Kevin's concerns.
I must admit, I have some sympathy for Kevin's argument of, do we create potential future problems for us because either it's red flags that get people distracted, or you read this and it's sort of like, yes, we're complying with the spirit of the law, but our goal is not for anything to do it. Does it bite us in the butt in some way, shape, or form? In which case, just going with the simple and the short is a better approach, because there's so many potential pitfalls, minefields associated with this, especially if something, especially either for the meeting or in the future, if people look at the words that you ended up putting in context versus just saying we approve, or at least we want it. Because normally I actually agree with you, Woody. I like the description in the blue book of why, the rationale. I'm just wondering if it's too loaded or potentially can bite us in the butt. So it's better off for something as potentially either contentious or dangerous like this to just keep it simple. Of your shorter one.
Well, the bylaw itself uses multifamily housing multiple times.
Mhm.
It is the foundation of the law and the foundation of the bylaw. that
Mhm.
we are approving a bylaw that creates a zoning district that allows for multifamily housing by right. That is, there's no way to get around that.
Yeah.
And to hide it would be inviting some kind of either confusion or I think charge of deception. So um if whether we mention multi-family housing or whether it's just a major part of the bylaw and the executive summary, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
It
I
has
think
to.
it's more the point of, do you flag it extra? But I mean, I read this also of, my concern also is on the back end, will have no impact on town services. No family has to be built for compliance to be achieved. I mean, you read it in many ways, in which cases you're like, okay, yeah, so the state blessed it, but do we open ourselves up in the future to something? So just keep it simple.
I think if a question, the warrant committee isn't the only committee recommending in this case, is that right?
So in the executive summary, I think it's the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board, and the Warrant Committee. Cam or Dave may know
And
different.
I believe the Capital Budget Committee.
Capital budget as well. But then at the time of the town meeting, they're proposing to have handouts that include endorsements by zoning board of appeals, board of health, essentially every other town conservation committee, open space committee, all those committees are being asked to
Vote to support.
to vote to support and to use this language.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if the initial committees, capital and planning, et cetera, and warrant are making a recommendation and there's the extra verbiage that you provide, if it's going to start to get too jumbled for people, or if it will just contrast with the style of the other committees in a way that doesn't make sense. I don't know, I'm just wondering.
Well, the warrant committee has always rendered its opinion or opinions if it's split. And just because this is a special town meeting, I don't see why that should be different. The voters at town meeting will be looking for the warrant committee's opinion and recommendation on this article. And so the vote is, to me, separate from the verbiage of what you wish to put into the special town meeting blue book. The problem with my brain is executive something means something very different to me than putting together a special town meeting blue book. So each of the committees mentioned will have a short paragraph or two blurb in support. What this is, I'm just speaking for myself now, but I was hoping that the warrant committee would add a little bit more detail, because I like your wording, Woody. The precise financial consequences of noncompliance cannot be definitively calculated. However, they are estimated to be well north of $20 million. And I can get you there very quickly. We've got the earmark for the Center Street Bridge, as well as the $2 million from Auchincloss. So that's 17. We're averaging $3 million a year over the last 5 years of regular grants. But this year, Kevin got an additional $1 million. If we fight the state, it's going to take us at least 2 fiscal years. And in some of these materials, they say, even after you come back into compliance, you will be at the bottom of the line and behind every town that just came into compliance. So it is safe to say that for 3 years, we will lose all grants from the state that are affected. The state also just threw in Chapter 90 funds, which range from roughly $350 a year to $650 a year. So if you take 500, that's another $1.5 million. We're almost at half of the operating budget right there. So what I am concerned about is we have heard on 2 of the previous calls erroneous information like, oh, it's just going to be 1 million of this and a little bit of that. If everyone pays $1,000 over 3 years, the whole thing goes away. No, nothing could be further from the truth. And basically, what I'm coming up with is over roughly a 3 year period, that if you want to know what it's going to cost you for non-compliance, take your annual tax bill and divide by 2. Those are your extra taxes. Because this is half an operating year's budget. So I don't know. That's probably way too much detail. Agreed, but it to say at least some kind of qualifier that in several tens of millions of dollars range, something like that, to give people an order of magnitude of what's on the table. This isn't something to be taken lightly.
Yeah, I still feel like with 2 additional sentences to the suggested the one that's further up there, the suggested verbiage, Woody. I mean,
Yep.
basically a sentence that says, non-compliance risks over, $20 million of grants, that Dover will not have access to. And therefore, we're in support of being compliant, and this is the parcel of land that we feel best satisfies that. But that, again, I don't know why I'm just going back to it short and sweet. So maybe there's a middle ground. I don't know.
Other comments? Do we want to vote on which version? Or do you, we have I have a sense that Gavin and Kevin both support the more condensed version.
You ask to count, just ask the Cam and Dave if there's a preference on what we generate. Does it matter whether we generate something more detailed or?
I think it would be very beneficial if you had a statement similar to what Woody's written for the motion, but then just did the short one and voted to support this, and then separately come up with what you wish to convey to the town as a committee on this article.
So if you look at the traditional Blue Book entries, for every budget item, we have a statement a little bit like Woody's longer, more complete summary of the situation, and then we have a simple motion saying we support it. And so, from my perspective, you could quite comfortably pass both of these, and that summary motion is what you're supporting as a committee, and the detailed thing is what we go into in what Dave is calling a Blue Book entry.
Are you suggesting 2 votes, Cam?
I think so.
You would
I mean,
combine.
if you have a look at, Woody's got a vote down the bottom, right? There's another paragraph there, Woody, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's typical of the structure of a Blue Book entry. And so it would conform more to the normal process of warrant committee recommendations to the town meeting. But, you guys have the right to decide whatever way you wish to proceed.
I will say I don't consider us the same as the Open Space Committee in terms of what our obligation is to town meeting regarding conveying our opinion. The charge to the warrant committee, unique to all committees in town, is to make a recommendation to town meeting members regarding each article, how to vote on each article. So That to me says we have a different responsibility than others do. I'm fine just recording our vote. That occasionally happens in the Blue Book. We just record a vote. But it feels as though this would be more consistent with articles in which we elaborate on our rationale.
And it seems that people look to us for rationale, so, like what you've included here.
Yeah, I think so. I think most people who come to town meeting are probably somewhat more sophisticated about town government than the average resident of Dover, and know that the charge of the warrant committee is to consider these things. So I do think we have somewhat different responsibilities than other committees in terms of considering articles or uh, the warrant. I'm not wedded to this language, but I think this with an article and a bylaw that's as complex as this bylaw is. And this bylaw, this is the longest bylaw I remember kind of seeing in the last several years. This bylaw is pretty complicated. So it does feel as though something more than this is part of our obligation. Again, I'm happy to have this
Yeah, I think, yeah,
rewritten, but
maybe it's the language. Or I guess I feel we could expound upon our reasoning, but in like half the words. But
So can we do we have to come up with that? So if is it possible for us to approve the first part, the short part, and then some people, maybe, Kevin and Gavin, whoever wants to take a pass at tightening this up, can we come back to the explanatory language, or do we need to have that nailed down tonight as well?
I don't know the answer to that. I think we could endorse it and say we approve any modifications as as drafted. I don't know. I don't know Robert's Rules of Orders well enough to know kind of how this all works. We need to give Carol and Melissa something in writing by Friday.
So we could approve the motion tonight, the short version tonight, and then consider the second part, the summary, the explanation. And that's
That would involve another meeting.
oh, okay. Sorry.
we'd have to have it, yeah.
Let's
So
not do that
I
then.
would suggest you do something tonight, and perhaps follow Woody's suggestion of subject to possible editing before the end of the week.
You can just say subject to final edits by the chair.
Yeah,
And then Woody can make whatever edits you all ask him to make.
That's
yeah.
good.
That's fair. And we can just do it over email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You can do it
perfect.
over
Yeah.
email.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking for a motion then for us to approve to approve the suggested language and the alternative motion with modifications that I'll draft based on your written suggestions over the next day or so. So would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Marty. And a second.
Second.
Okay. So, Nina,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So, what I would ask then is for each of you, I'll send this Word document around tonight when we finish. And I'd ask that people edit the document as they wish and send it back to me. And then I'll try and meld the edits into a final version that I'll distribute before I send it to Carol.
Okay.
All right, that's fair. I mean, I probably will just write something just completely separate, like 5 or 6 sentences, like, what do you think about this? So, but,
That's fine.
okay, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Would you ever seen the movie A River Runs Through It, when the father keeps on coming back into the son who's practicing essays and he says half the words. If you haven't seen it, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm fine. Feel free to edit what's written or to rewrite completely. I'm happy to try and put something together based on people's comments.
Cool.
I do think, though, that I would argue that this is not consistent with the role that the Warrant Committee's played in town meetings in the past, including special town meetings. We have a obligation to clarify the rationale for the vote, in addition to giving our opinion about how people should vote, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Unless there's
So
other
moved.
business. Any other business? Okay, I'll resend the Zoom link for the guidance letter meeting tomorrow. And then I will also send this Word document. You got to send it back to me, though, pretty quickly. I think I could work on a Friday morning and get it to Carol within a reasonable within her deadline, but
Yeah, so edit tomorrow.
edit tomorrow would be most helpful.
Okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I second.
Well,
Or did somebody make one?
someone's got to make the
So
motion.
moved.
Yeah,
Misha's made the motion. Kevin second.
Second.
Okay, Nina,
Yes.
Mish,
yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
and Gavin.
Yes.
And I am absolutely a yes. Okay, great. All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.